So welcome to our middle school advanced mathematics webinar. We are happy to have you all here with us today. And I believe Shelley's going to get us started by talking a little bit about webinar protocols.
Thanks, Shauna. So as you've probably discovered by now, this is a webinar format for this meeting. It is, you'll be able to view the presentation and the presenters as they go through the slides with you. And if you have questions, we would ask that you submit them through the Q&A feature that you'll find in the Zoom toolbar at the bottom of your screen. We will answer questions as time permits, as they come up, as we have answers to them, because I suspect some will, we will not have answers to. And we will be including, publishing a frequently asked questions document and posting it to the TEA website. Shauna mentioned that we are recording this presentation. And so you can, it's not there yet. It'll probably take us a little bit before we can get it posted, but you'll be able to use the QR code or the shortened link there on this slide to be able to access it through TEA's YouTube channel.
Thank you, Shelley. So folks, today you're going to be hearing from me. I am Shauna Wiebush. I am the director for the Math and Science team in the Curriculum Standards and Student Support Division. I am joined today by James Slack, who is our secondary math content specialist. We're excited to be able to present some additional information to you around SB 2124 and the Commissioner's proposed rules, as well as some ideas and suggestions to help support implementation. If you have questions after the webinar, as I'm sure there will still be some, please feel free to contact us using our help desk. When you click on the link here or the QR code, it'll take you to the broader TEA help desk screen, and the curriculum icon is down in the bottom right corner. And so if you go there to ask questions, we will be able to address them and also make sure that we get them to the right people. Additionally, as we move through our slides today, I wanted to provide you access to a link tree. That's the top link up there. I have bookmarks to all of the different websites that we talk about today so that you have one place to go and find those resources. We also have a web page dedicated specifically to the implementation of middle school advanced math. That is also where we will load a PDF of this slide deck, other resources, and once the YouTube recording is posted, we'll announce it there as well so that you have more than one way to access all of those resources. So I wanted to give you a little bit of a bird's eye view of what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about the purpose of the law and rules. We're going to look at the language of the law as well as the language of the Commissioner's rules. And then we're going to discuss implementation considerations, starting with what you need to think about now in preparation for year one. And then you will have an opportunity to hear from a couple of districts that have been working on advanced math programs in middle school. After we talk to the folks from the field, we'll talk a little bit about what you need to consider in your first year of implementation, second year of implementation, year 3 and beyond, and also more broadly about building capacity in your education community.
Okay, I think that I'm on.
Okay.
Let's begin with the laws and rules. Senate Bill 20.
James, I'm sorry. Can you move your microphone a little closer so that folks can hear you better? Thank you.
Sure. I hope that's a lot better. Senate Bill 2124 has become, of the 88th regular session of the Texas legislature, has become state law and can be found in Texas Education Code 28.029. The purpose of the middle school advanced mathematics program is to increase the number of students who complete advanced mathematics courses in high school. The mechanism enacted by this law is each school district and open enrollment charter are required to develop an advanced mathematics program. Why would the legislature want to increase the number of students who complete an advanced mathematics course in high school? Here's the data. The latest data we have for students who've successfully completed an who've been successful at an institution of higher education within the 6 years of high school graduation is 2022. As such, these students would have graduated in 2016. You'll note that roughly 1 out of 20 students who did not take Algebra 2 were successful in those 6 years. Almost 4 times that were successful for those students who took Algebra 2. For those students who took advanced quantitative reasoning, statistics, or college prep math, they were almost 4 times as likely to be successful in 6 years at an institution of higher education. Those who took pre-calculus were almost 7 times as likely to be successful, and those who took advanced placement, international baccalaureate, or dual credit math courses were almost 12 times as successful as those who took a course below algebra math. Now, this is true whether they pass those AP or IB exams. This is just those who were enrolled in those courses. Okay, let's take a closer look at the rule, or the law, excuse me. The law requires districts and open enrollment charter schools to enroll 6th grade students who place in the top 40% on the grade 5 STAR math assessment, or a local measure, including grade 5 class ranking, or demonstrated proficiency on grade 5 math coursework. It gives parents or guardians the option to opt out their students. It also gives the commissioner the authority to adopt rules to implement this section. We'll examine these last 2 points in a little bit more detail, beginning with why opt out. Basically, it gives families the opportunity to speak with their kids about the student's mathematic potential and what that might mean. It also gives parents the explicit authority to remove students from this program. As we discussed with a few slides ago, these proposed rules you'll find do echo the law. School districts and open enrollment charter schools are required to develop a program so middle school students can enroll in Algebra 1 during grade 8, their grade 8 school year. It also develops a local measure to determine which students should be automatically enrolled. These proposed rules maintain that 60th percentile or higher students statewide using the grade 5 STAR math assessment should be put in this program. Additionally, the top 40% via local measure, including students' grade 5 class ranking and demonstrated proficiency in grade 5 math coursework, should also be placed in this program. We have received feedback that the word develop has led to some to believe they must create a local measure. This was not the intent. A district must use the readily available data to make these decisions, such as the aforementioned class ranking or the demonstrated proficiency. A district may create one, but it is not necessary. We know there's been some question about these terms, 60th percentile, top 40%, top 2 quintiles. We wanted to make it clear that all 3 of these terms mathematically are in fact the same thing. They all mean those top students, that top 40%. And we are speaking of students, not STAR scores. So we're looking at the top 40% of students, regardless what term we use. Now, part of this rule, districts are required to provide written notice to parents or guardians. Such instruction must be sent at least 14 days prior to the first day of school. It should also include the purpose of this middle school advanced math program, the structure of the program, including an overview of content addressed at each grade level, resources offered to support student success, the right of the parent or guardian to opt their child out, and the process for which those parents or guardians need to follow to opt those child out. This process should include any associated deadlines for doing so. We are making new information available to you in the form of a new report in the Texas Performance Reporting System, or TPRS. It enables districts to follow the progress of students through math courses over time. This report will allow districts to track data about students who move through the advanced math program. It is designed to help you monitor students' data over time, This report is not designed to identify which students are eligible for inclusion in the advanced mathematics program. That will be discussed later. We will discuss later how to determine who is eligible in future slides. This is a screenshot of that data that is currently available.
So now we're going to shift from discussing the law and the rules to discussing implementation. The first element that we want to explore with you today is centered around immediate planning needs. We'll discuss how to identify the 60th percentile on STAR and provide some clarification around the local demonstrated proficiency. We will also discuss curriculum, communication, and master scheduling considerations. One of the things that you will need to determine is which students are eligible for automatic enrollment. The law splits determination into two categories. The first is STAR. If students are in the 60th percentile across the state, they are automatically enrolled. And we'll discuss this in the next few slides where I will share some screenshots with you. Those screenshots will help you know where to look within the centralized reporting system to identify the 60th percentile. Before we get there, though, I do want to talk to you a little bit about class ranking and demonstrated proficiency. In addition to STAR results, each district or charter must consider either class ranking based on mathematics or a demonstrated proficiency in the student's 5th grade mathematics coursework. The method for determining class rank or determination about what constitutes demonstrated proficiency will be decided by each school district or charter. If your district does not already generate a class rank for your grade 5 students based on mathematics, you may choose to use demonstrated proficiency. If your district does already demonstrate or generate a class rank, you may choose to use that instead of demonstrated proficiency. The commissioner's rules state that districts shall develop a local measure. As James noted, we have heard feedback that we should provide better clarification about that local measure because the word develop makes it sound like we are telling you to create an assessment. The intent is for you to consider the data you already have to ensure that you haven't missed a student whose STAR scores did not reflect their ability or who may not have a STAR score at all for whatever reason. So that demonstrated proficiency could include student performance on unit assessments across the school year. If your school uses standards-based grading and does not assign letter or number grades to students in grade 5, you might use a portfolio system that demonstrates student readiness. The goal of the law, as we understand it, is to include students who slip through the cracks and give them the opportunity to rise to their potential. The Venn diagram serves as a reminder that, as we understand it, the intent is to be as inclusive as possible and to ensure that students who have the potential to be successful in advanced mathematics have the opportunity to participate. So the first eligibility criteria I mentioned was STAR performance. So over the next few slides, I'll share some screenshots from the Centralized Reporting System, or CRS, and walk you through how to find that 60th percentile. The first thing I want to highlight for you is the importance of making sure that you're looking at all of the assessments for grade 5 STAR. That includes the English assessment, the Spanish assessment, as well as the STAR with embedded supports. As you're analyzing the data for that particular assessment, you're going to look at performance on tests, go to district performance, and then to campus performance on test. You want to make sure that you are looking at the tab that indicates performance by student. And then as indicated by the circle on the screenshot you see, you're going to look at percentile rank. Once you sort your students by percentile rank, you'll be able to see which students are in that 60th percentile. You'll notice here on the screenshot that the highlighted section indicates students who are in that 60th percentile. Some, but not all of the students who meet grade level are included in that 60th percentile. Now that we've discussed how to identify which students are eligible for automatic enrollment, we need to next discuss how you're going to communicate both who the students are and about the program. So the commissioner's rules outline specific components that must be included in parent notification, and I've reiterated them here on this slide. In a moment, I will also share some sample templates that you may use and adapt to support these communication efforts. In addition to the required communication with parents, it is also important to communicate effectively within your school district or charter. When discussing the build-out of an advanced middle school mathematics program, it is easy to highlight logistics like shifts in master scheduling, curriculum, and professional development, and the needs of students. It is also important to communicate the purpose of the program and to envision the opportunities that this brings for students.
So Shauna, I'd like to interrupt for just a moment here. So we have heard in terms of communication, and I've seen this question in the chat, we have heard from at least one district that intends for their district staff to run reports for all of their campuses of the students who perform in the top 60th percentile or higher. And we would consider that a best practice because one, they get access to the data a little bit earlier. And two, that can ensure consistency in getting that information out to your campuses, making sure everybody has the information in time to implement, for example, a summer bridge program, if that's something that they were interested in doing.
Thanks, Shelley. So we are really excited by the possibility that students who may not have had access to advanced math will now have the opportunity to see if they can succeed. Re-envisioning your mathematics program can be challenging. The lens we use when communicating shapes the tone of the conversation. Here I've provided some examples of questions that you may be considering framed with asset-focused language. What opportunities might students have if they complete Algebra 1 content in grade 8? What courses might this open up for them, not only in mathematics, but also in various CTE pathways? Sometimes students and teachers in advanced math classrooms miss opportunities to dive deeply into why the right answer is right. This program may bring in new perspectives and provide an opportunity for richer conversations between students in advanced mathematics. In on-level classrooms, what opportunities does this provide to focus on the needs of students who benefit from a slower pace and more time engaging with mathematical concepts? When thinking about that asset-focused language, we also wanted to provide you with some examples of parent letters as well as an opt-out agreement. There are, I think, 3 different versions of a parent letter available at the QR code and at the link you see here on the screen. They're also accessible using the share file templates and samples link in the link tree that I shared with you at the beginning of the session. The slide shows a screenshot of part of one of the samples that we have provided for you. In this sample letter, parents are informed of opportunities that advanced math opens for their student. Students may have more opportunities to earn college credit while in high school and may have access to higher paying jobs because they are more likely to complete some form of post-secondary education. We've also provided a sample opt-out agreement that you are more than welcome to use or modify to meet your needs. This particular one is a fillable form, so it's easy to use as is if it serves your purposes. So now that we've determined which students will be automatically enrolled in the program, and we've thought about how to communicate about the program with your community, the next thing we'd like to discuss are curriculum options. So how you design your middle school program to address all of the TEKS in middle school is a local decision, but there are a variety of ways to get there. A compacted curriculum is only one way that some districts have chosen to enable students to take Algebra 1 in grade 8. One way to organize a compacted curriculum is that students learn all of the 6th grade standards and some of the 7th grade standards in their 6th grade year. During their 7th grade year, the students would learn the remainder of the 7th grade standards and all of the 8th grade standards. Then, when they are in 8th grade, students will have the opportunity to take Algebra 1. TEA has open education resources that can support a compacted curriculum. The resources that are currently available are part of the COVID emergency release from 2020 and are a pilot of the OER mathematics resources. TEA is currently working on the first edition of the accelerated products, which are expected to go through the Instructional Materials Review and Approval Process, or IMRA, in 2025, with plans to release for the 2026-2027 school year. What you'll see here on this slide, the QR code and the link will take you to the Texas Gateway. And I have highlighted accelerated grade 6 math here. The next couple of screenshots I share are going to be from that particular program. I also want to highlight for you that any questions you have in particular about these resources can be directed to oer@tea.texas.gov. So when you go into that accelerated grade 6 math in the Texas Gateway, one of the things you'll see is a link to program materials. And while the COVID emergency release has not gone through the instructional materials review and approval process, it does provide a resource that includes all of the 6th through 8th grade math standards compacted into 6th and 7th grade school years, allowing students to take Algebra 1 in grade 8. What I want to highlight for you on this screen is that there are resources available to support school districts in implementation, including teacher implementation materials, scope and sequence, a year at a glance, standards alignment, and a glossary. Now, I want to reiterate that this is just one way to do it. This calendar is one calendar. It's not one that you are required to follow, and you certainly ought to, if you want to use these materials as a resource, adapt them to the needs and the timing that occurs within your school district. I also wanted to take a moment and highlight the teacher resources section. The section is password protected in an effort to keep things like answer keys from becoming widely available. Teachers will need to sign in using their gateway credentials to access these resources. And you'll see on the screenshot here, I have an arrow pointing to the bottom where the teacher resources are. I've also taken some screenshots of what you might find in the teacher resource section. It includes supports such as the teacher implementation guides specific to each lesson, student assignments and answer keys, and end of topic assessments. So the use of a compacted curriculum and a separate advanced mathematics class is one consideration in master scheduling, but there are other ways to think about supporting advanced mathematics in middle school. James is going to highlight some of these options for you.
The first one is the Texas Virtual School Network, or TXVSN. We have colleagues who are working with providers to develop courses for the TXVSN. These courses will have Texas certified instructors, meet 100% of the Texas Essential Knowledge and Skills, or TEKS, and will be asynchronous. Students are eligible for Foundation School Programming, or FSP funding, just like they would be in a traditional classroom. We'll share more when this is available, including all the logistics and how to register. Our colleagues who oversee TXVSN will be happy to discuss any questions or concerns that you may have. If you decide to create your own online course instead of TXVSN, it must cover all the TEKS. It cannot be designed to operate on a drop-in basis. That is, it cannot be used on a per lesson basis. To qualify for Foundation School Program funding, an appropriate certified teacher must be present in the room, and students must be regularly scheduled for and attending the online course on campus. Alternatively, you could team up with another district and share a teacher. They could spend different days on different campuses, which may require block scheduling, as you can see in this diagram. Or if the campuses are close together, they could spend one morning on one campus and perhaps the afternoon on another. Normal certification requirements would still apply. Another method, you can use split level or stacked classes, where groups work directly with the teacher while the other group works independently in a small group. Here's an example and some pointers to support teachers, especially when they're providing direct instruction with only one group. And you can see how it's scheduled there. The on-level students are with the teacher, while the compacted students are working independently. To help them work independently, it might aid to have a high-quality digital adaptive program that is a program that allows students to do their work and receive immediate feedback. They might be doing centers and small group work. This may include the necessity of teaching expectations of how to behave and to work with centers and small groups. And if they finish the work early, enrichment activities could be used to help foster problem-solving skills. We expect there to be grants such as the Math Innovation Zone. If you have applied for blending learning grants such as this in the future, these tools and techniques may support your teacher. Additionally, you could provide the courses over the summer. For example, rising grade 6 students, that is students immediately after their grade 5 school year, would take grade 6 math over the summer and then join the grade 7 students in grade 7 math in the fall. Similarly, the next year, rising grade 7 students could take grade 7 mathematics over the summer and join the grade 8 students for grade 8 math in the fall. Remember that the whole point of this is for your middle school advanced mathematics program should be designed so that students can take Algebra 1 in grade 8. Let's discuss this first option a bit more and how the additional day school year, or ADSY, may support it. Okay. The additional day school year provides 30 days of funding for voluntary summer learning. ADSY can be used only for pre-K through grade 5, but may apply to intensive grade 6 math summer course after the grade 5 school year. To qualify, you must serve one grade level within pre-K through grade 5. Your campus calendar must have at least 180 instructional days with 75,600 operational minutes, not including any staff development waivers. And this would add an additional 30 days of instruction to the 180 instructional days of your regular academic calendar. Further, you would need to have a certified teacher who delivers at least 2 hours of instruction on these designated ADSY days. They should be hosting these ADSY days separate from the regular instructional calendar. It cannot be part of a second regular instructional day. Remember that it's demonstrated proficiency and not seat time. Students who can demonstrate proficiency should be able to move on. Now, there are some benefits to this. I'm sorry, before I get to the benefits, our colleagues in ADSY wanted to share this example with you of a school district who did not meet the calendar requirements, so they did not receive funding. Please take care of that and meet these requirements if you decide to go this route. It does have benefits, including additional pay for teachers during these ADSY days. It offers less intrusion to the master schedule, as these students would just take grade 7 with their older classmates and beyond as they matriculate upwards. For more information, please contact our colleagues in ADSY at adsy@tea.texas.gov. If you use one of these techniques to support your master schedule or a different technique altogether, make sure that your teachers have the proper certificates, the ones that list the grade level that they're teaching. For grade 6, most of the certificates in 19 Texas Administrative Code section 231.61 will work, but they should have grade 6 in the title. For example, generalist, early childhood to grade 6, or EC-6, if you will. For grade 7 and 8 advanced math courses, again, they should have these grades listed, such as course subjects grades 4 through 8, or junior high or high school mathematics. For Algebra 1 in middle school, there are only 2 certificates that are listed in this section of 231.61. The first is mathematics grades 4 through 8. The second one is a legacy certificate that can no longer be earned, but some teachers may still have it. It's elementary mathematics grades 1 through 8. Additionally, any of those that list high school as part of the certificate would work. This information can also be found in the teacher assignment chart.
Okay, folks, we've talked a lot about the elements that you're going to need to consider as you think about implementing a middle school advanced mathematics program. But before we go any further, I want to provide an opportunity for you to hear from representatives from 2 different districts who have agreed to discuss their experiences while implementing advanced mathematics programs in middle school. Here in a moment, you will be hearing from Dr. Mindy Curran. She is the Assistant Superintendent in Ingram ISD, and also from Liz Johnson, who is the coordinator for middle school mathematics in Garland ISD. So at this point, I'm going to stop my screen share. Yeah. And hi, Mindy. Hi, Liz. Thank you again for joining us today. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to ask each of you to kind of give your 1 minute elevator speech. And we'll start with you, Dr. Curran. Can you please tell us about your district and your advanced math program in middle school?
Sure. So Ingram ISD is considered to be a rural school district. We've had a little bit of growth over the last couple of years, so we're right about 1,300 students now district-wide, pre-K to 12. We're about 66% economically disadvantaged. That is down, but when we first started our advanced level math, we were well above 75% as a district. Our special ed population is about 16%, our emergent bilingual around 18%. We are 45% Hispanic, 52% white, and then 3% from other demographic groups. So that's a little bit about kind of how we're designed. We've had an advanced middle school math program for a number of years, 7 or more, 10 maybe. And it's looked like the model that you presented with the 6th grade math and some 7th grade math TEKS at 6th grade honors math. 7th grade math looked like the remaining 7th grade math TEKS and the 8th grade math TEKS so that they could take Algebra 1. We kind of have in our high school for our advanced coursework, we kind of have an opt-out versus opt-in philosophy. We really work on pushing students in. So we kind of call it push-in at middle school. So with some of our, especially our low SES students, sometimes we found over the years that they weren't necessarily signing up for these advanced opportunities. So we really started reviewing our data and pushing students in and looking at their STAR assessment scores from the previous grade level. So if the STAR data was available, that's what we used. We didn't create a new local assessment. While we might take some teacher input as part of that, it's not to the point where it serves as a barrier, only serves as an enhancement to be able to capture more students. So we kind of looked at meets grade level and above is kind of what we've been doing and sort of just pushing those students into the honors. Sometimes whether they actually signed up for that on their course selection or not. We do have multiple entry points. So we start with that 5th grade into 6th grade. But if they did not fall into that 6th grade math honors, we try to capture them again if they show high performance. And so even if they were on level 6th grade math, we might try to capture them into 7th grade math honors as well. And then again, we provide another opportunity 7th to Algebra 1 for 8th grade. And then overall, I'd say in our master schedule, it looks like we have more honors students than we have on level students. So that's kind of, if you think about it, we have 5 sections maybe. We have 3 that'll be honors and 2 that might be on level. We're about 60% probably going into our honors curriculum, 50 to 60%. And we have, just for relevance, we have 1 math teacher per grade level. So we have 3 math teachers in middle school, 1 per grade level.
Thank you so much, Dr. Curran. Same question for you, Ms. Johnson. Tell us a little bit about your district and your advanced math program.
Hi, thank you so much. Well, we have an advanced program that's very similar to what Dr. Curran described in terms of 6th grade does half of the 7th grade standards, and then 7th grade does half of the 7th grade standards and all of 8th grade. So very similar to what you guys talked about earlier. We have 12 middle schools and 7 high schools. 40% of these learners in our district are emergent bilingual. And I do have, let me share a slide it's easier to talk about the numbers this way really quick. Yeah, everybody seeing the graph?
Yeah.
So this is how our honors enrollment, and this data is coming from just a recent assessment, but you can see how our 2023 Math 6 honors enrollment differs compared to our 23-24 Math 6 honors enrollment here. By some of our subpopulations. So one of our biggest shifts that we saw was an increase in the number of our emergent bilingual learners, and you'll see that on this slide right here. And I'll talk a little bit more later about some supports that we have in place to ensure that those students are successful. This is our first year automatically enrolling all of our top 40% of our students. We actually use the top 40% of our MAP scores last year for beginning, middle, and end of year to choose automatic enrollments. And then we found that differed by about 30 kids from the data when we pulled it from STAR later on in the year. So we looked at it a couple of different ways. But so this is how that's how it shifted our enrollment. And just preliminarily looking at it, I think that our data this year for our 6th grade honors in terms of achievement is going to be fairly similar to our 6th grade honors data for last year, but that's just based on preliminary local assessments and our STAR interim. A little maybe increase in meets, and maybe a little bit lower in approaches, but for the most part, it's very similar to what we had last year. So that's sort of our numbers in our district.
Thank you so much, Ms. Johnson. Before I ask the next question, I just want to let you guys know that we are going to be scheduling and hosting some office hours around this. So we're working hard to get through the questions in the Q&A, but we will absolutely have some time to dive into the details a little bit farther with folks later. Okay. So the next question I'm going to ask, and Dr. Curran, we'll start with you again. Tell us about how your district's program has impacted demographic representation in advanced mathematics.
So one of the things that we have seen is it's really helped to close those access gaps. And we see that actually continue on beyond the middle school level all the way into our high school level. And we had some, like a lot of districts, had some pretty significant access gaps in the beginning, which is what created our reason to push in the first place. Is when we opened up the opportunity to sign up, we saw those gaps still existing. So we started pushing in by identifying potential students who could be successful. And we also looked at it too of maybe we were scooping down a little further, maybe in STAR performance to bring more students into the fold by identifying supports that they might need to be successful. And I don't know if you want me to get into those pieces yet, but what we've seen is at our high school, and one of the things I didn't mention is 3 years ago, we took our one high school and we converted it to a wall-to-wall P-Tech high school. So all of our students have the opportunity to pursue an associate degree or post-secondary credential. So that being said, our class of 2022 is the first time where we really see that the work that was put in for some years where that gap closes. So our CCMR for dual credit for class of 2022 looked like 81% of our students met CCMR through dual credit. And it looked like that across all of our student groups. So that was very exciting. And, I realized that sometimes that might, be better, or, 1 year it might dip a little bit, but for that year, we finally managed to close that gap. And even our emergent bilingual was actually higher than that. It was actually 83%. So that was really exciting. And that's an improvement from where we began when we started this work to the gap where we had Hispanic was 8%, with white population being 35%, and economically disadvantaged being 12%. So hitting that 81% and seeing no gap across the demographic groups for that dual credit was pretty huge. And that kind of has led to, we have about 67% of our current seniors that are going to graduate from college with either a post-secondary credential or an associate degree. So the work at the middle school level is sticking as long as, we keep that philosophy going, right, all the way up into high school as well. So we have seen that have that overall impact. One of the things I'll say gave me pause when we got that new data from our taper report, is seeing that maybe we do still have some work to do when you drill in beyond just dual credit to look at dual credit math specifically. Of all of our core areas, we have some additional work to do there. If there's a gap, that's where it is. That's the biggest one that we have, but we've definitely made a lot of progress in closing that due to, I think, the accelerated math program and really pushing by looking at that data and coming at it from the perspective of believing in students until they believe for themselves. And, students will step up or down to the expectations you have for them. And so we've kind of created a level of high expectation and kind of that culture, and we're seeing that stick through.
Thank you so much. And Ms. Johnson, I know you shared those bar graphs that talked a little bit about your demographics. Did you have anything you wanted to add to that?
No, I just maybe clarify when I was talking about comparing this year's data to last year's data, we have students who traditionally, wouldn't have participated in honors in Garland. And so comparing this year's honors cohort to last year's honors cohort is including those kids who wouldn't have elected to sign themselves up for those classes. And we had very few opt out.
Great, thank you. So, Dr. Curran, what systemic supports did your district put in place to help students in both advanced and on-level programs in your district?
So one of the things that we have done is Avid. We've implemented Avid at our middle school, and our implementation doesn't look like the traditional Avid implementation. We actually have Avid for all of our middle school students. Every grade level, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, they take Avid to help support, again, their success in enrollment into the honors levels classes. So that's one of the things that we've done, and that started about 4 or 5 years ago. One of the things that we've had in place for a little longer than that is what we call currently is Pathways. And that Pathways class is about an hour long. It's a period that's about an hour long, but it has the potential to be split into like an A and a B section so that you can rotate students through and get that accelerated instruction and that enrichment. We do a lot of career exploration in there as well. And the intent behind that is to be a non-graded class. It's a class that we set up into the schedule, and it's constantly reviewed to ensure that students are where they need to be and getting the supports that they need. So every 3 weeks, we're looking at the data. And on average, about every 6 weeks, we're making some shifts in the rotation of where those students go in that pathway. So they might be getting accelerated instruction in math or accelerated instruction in English, or they might be getting enrichment. They might be doing some club activities, some involvement, some career exploration, and they're on a rotational schedule. It's kind of varied throughout the years of what that looks like, what that rotation looks like. Sometimes it's some years it's been an A schedule, an A and a B. They might be going to math Monday through Thursday for part A, and then English Monday through Thursday for part B, depending upon what they need. And then Friday might be club days, or they might be doing a Monday, like a block schedule, a Monday, Wednesday, a Tuesday, Thursday. But the whole intent of that is giving students what the data says that they need. And so that's one of the largest supports that we have. And coming from a small school aspect, it allows us to get basically twice the amount from an individual teacher. We only have 3 math teachers. So by having this period and having it set up into that A and B kind of a schedule allows the teacher to see twice as many students in that accelerated instruction. And I'm not sure I'm doing a good job of helping you picture what this looks like in a schedule, but feel free to contact me with questions. So that allows us to get, even though we only have the 3 teachers, allows them to see more students. And we don't just look at the students who need it for that acceleration, but we also look at our upper level students who might have been pushed in to that honors class, right? We're giving them the supports, or maybe they weren't in 6th grade math honors and now they're in 7th grade math honors. So what holes do they have because they weren't in 6th grade math honors? And we're addressing those gaps and those holes to help pull them up to speed so they can be as successful as their potential says they can be in 7th grade math honors. And then we do the same thing for that 7th grade math to 8th grade. So we have to have that 8th grade TEKS exposure. So if we've missed out on identifying some students who could have been pushed in, have that opportunity to be successful, then we'll put some other things in place. Like we've done a 2-week algebra boot camp, coming into the 8th grade year so that we can capture those students in and teach those 8th grade math TEKS that they may be missing out. And then we also support them when they're in that middle school Algebra 1 curriculum, finishing up some of those 8th grade TEKS up front, as well as having that pathways period to support their success in the Algebra 1.
Thank you so much. Ms. Johnson, same question for you. Talk to us about the systemic supports that you use in Garland ISD.
Thank you. A lot of the supports that we have in Garland are similar to the ones that Dr. Curran talked about. I wanted to say that any supports that we're providing really center on one goal. We want to redefine what it means to be an honor student. And remember, this was our first year of our 40% opt-in, like we're opting everybody in. And so in redefining what it means to be an honors kid, an honors student, right? I think the traditional definition for a lot of our teachers, or maybe even a lot of students and parents too, is an honors student is somebody who never struggles. And we're redefining that as an honor student really ought to struggle. An honor student is somebody who will eventually be challenged, and they can succeed in that challenge with support. So it's a different approach. We are 48% emergent bilingual in Garland ISD. And so a big thing that we needed to do this year, some of our teachers who have taught honors in the past may not have worked with as many emergent bilingual students as they did this year. So it became important to ensure that everybody had PD over content-based language instruction. So that was like a theme. Anytime you came to PD, you're going to be doing something with content-based language instruction. And that was really a year-long project that we're going to continue to work on. We also upgraded our curriculum to focus more on vocabulary and math literacy strategies. You talked earlier about small group instruction. Small group instruction is very big. So we have that written directly into our curriculum for our for our daily math classes, have small group instruction written in. And we also have a class kind of like math pathway, kind of like the pathways Dr. Corinne was talking about. We call it WIN, which means what I need. But that's a time when students will get targeted intervention. And, intervention's not just for kids who are in the bottom 20 percentile, right? Like, are the bottom 20% rather. When intervention is for anybody who's persevering with a challenge. And so it's a time to say, well, what supports are necessary to help this student achieve at this level, knowing that the data indicates that this student can achieve at this level. So those, I think, are the big systems that we had in place, as well as a summer bridge program over the summer that we're launching really this summer. We had it in the past, we're bringing it back this summer in a big way.
Thank you so much. Third question. Dr. Curran, if you were giving advice to a district or charter school on implementing an advanced math program for the first time, what would you advise is the most important thing to consider first when developing the program?
This is a tough question because there's a few things that come to mind. So you really challenged me on this one. And my answer, I don't know if this is what you're looking for, but it's in my heart. So I would say, consider where your culture is and your belief system across your staff. And your students, right? So one of the things I said earlier was students will step up or down to the expectations you have for them. And so if there's thematic conversation happening across your teachers where these students can't, because then there's some culture work that needs to be done to be addressed, because if you're going in with that belief system, then guess what? Students aren't going to do what you're asking them to do. So I would say, kind of check the pulse of where your culture is at and do some work there, do some training, get the teachers to really believe in it, and take the work from a we can if approach. There's going to be barriers, there's going to be challenges, and you can come up with all the reasons why we can't do something. So rather than using that language, look at, not we can't because, but we can if. Let's look at the barriers of what's going on that might be prohibitive to accomplishing this. And then let's attack those and let's come up with some game plans. What supports could we put in so that students can? Because when you consider like what does your demographic gaps look like in your access and achievement? And if they're larger, then that means you're going to have to get more creative. You're going to have to take bigger strategic risks, if you will, on trying to make this happen. And that's going to take some significant supports. So that would be my suggestion, is kind of check where your core belief system is in your staff and do work there if that's needed before you begin just all in.
Thank you so much. Ms. Johnson?
My biggie is communicate, communicate, communicate. So communicate with parents and students about the benefits of what they are doing. Let them know what supports are in place. Parents might be nervous if this is their student's first honors class, and a lot of our students, this was their first honors class. And so they want to know that we have their back in a lot of ways. There's from professional development to some direct supports for their students to the curriculum. It's all there for them. But if they don't know that, they might be nervous about opting in, right? And about staying in the game and not opting out. Communicate with counselors. This is not just an experimental district policy that we're trying for 1 year. This is a requirement this is something that we have support for. There's a reason behind this. This is going to get more kids college credit. This is going to get more kids a living wage, and it's something that's going to stick around. And it is a requirement. Like and also this is how we're going to do it. So we had our data was pulled at a district level. So we had that practice where everybody knew exactly which kids, like it was communicated, these are the students who are going to be enrolled at your campus. So we had a system district wide for identifying those students and ensuring they were enrolled. And we did work with the counselors too to really make that happen. And then, yeah, we are redefining what it means to be an honor student. So our PD centered on that theme in terms of providing supports and communicating that message. We're going to continue to focus on that next year too. And then just very clearly defining what supports are appropriate for an honors student, when would they need those, and what things should be done before a student exits from an honors course. Like if a student says this isn't for me, well, what needs to happen first? And who has that been communicated to, right? So everybody should know all the pieces of the plan. We did a lot more parent communication this year than we have in past years. We've done a lot more interdepartmental collaboration this year than we have in past years. And I think we're going to do even more of that next year.
Thank you so much, Ms. Johnson. Last question for our panel today. Dr. Curran, how do you reflect on your program, and what are the next steps for you as your advanced mathematics program evolves?
So I have done some reflection, because as I knew this was coming, and even having that access to the data and the taper as well, I thought we were doing really good until I dug deeper. And then, you're always trying to see how you can improve. So our dual credit data is really impressive. But when you look at dual credit math, and then you kind of link to how math specifically can be such a barrier to that post-secondary success, and getting through that 4-year persistence. And so that's where our biggest gap still is, in spite of all the work that we've done. And so it kind of just identified some additional things for us that we need to be doing. So some of the things for us is we still have some of the demographic group gaps in our 8th grade Algebra 1 participation. And I was a little sad to see that. I thought we'd done more work than maybe where we're at. So I had a little bit of a realist check for us, and identified some steps that we'll need to take to do even better than where we've been. And that we still have those same gaps that, if you've got that gap in the Algebra 1 at 8th grade, then you see that still persisting in our high school data on that dual credit math. And so for us, that's going to be our target, is to look back then at the data that we've been using. And, I appreciate, what the state has done with having that, automatic identifier. But for us, we want to be able to scoop up more students. So we're going to keep working to not just meet that expectation, but to surpass that expectation and provide our students the right support. So we've got a little bit of work to do in those areas. And I would like to tack on one thing back to, because I want to comment on something Liz said. It reminded me on your last question about the most important thing. And she's right on that communication piece. Sometimes you have to sell your students and the parents on the why. And I'd kind of forgotten that that's one of the things that we had to do, especially with our low SES students. In many cases, those families, some of those families didn't see the value in what we were trying to do. So there's a lot of education and value in showing that data, showing how that post-secondary credentialer training will help them earn more income, that will help provide them opportunities that didn't exist, and that job growth. So that communication piece, Liz was spot on, is very important.
Thank you. And same question for you, Ms. Johnson. What are your reflections and next steps?
Thanks. So a lot of the things I've kind of already talked about in terms of just continuing to work on our district mindset, some specific things. So we're not as far along as Dr. Curran's district, is not as far along as Ingram, because this is really our 2nd year going in, right? So that means we now have a lot of kids going into 7th grade honors. So we now need to focus and be sure, are our teachers all equipped to teach 7th grade honors? Does everybody, it's a very different class. So for us, that means our students will be taking 8th grade STAR in 7th grade, right? We have a lot more of them doing that this coming year than we've had in past years. And so that just means more teachers will have to learn how to teach that prep. And we're also preparing to have a lot more middle school algebra teachers than we've had in the past. So we're trying to get ahead of that game. We're building collaborative networks where, like, if we have a curriculum advisory board for algebra, we have instructional coaches for middle schools that maybe don't have a lot of algebra students right now participating on that board to get it to get ahead, right? We're saying, how can we be working with the algebra teachers and learning from the algebra teachers and learning from the algebra specialists now? Because we have a lot more algebra students coming, and they'll be here soon. Another thing is, yeah, no, we're going to continue to cast the net wide. We also cast it pretty wide, and we wanted to err on the side of including more students. So we'll be doing that. And just another thing that I didn't mention earlier that we have done this year that we will continue to do is everybody's on the same page that we don't take our senior year off of math. So we are, it's the purpose is to get our college credit, and we're just working on being sure that all of our seniors are in fact getting enrolled in their senior year of math. And so that was just another collaborative effort we worked on. But for us, a lot of it is preparing to teach 7th grade honors and preparing to teach Algebra 1 at the middle school level. So being sure we're ready from a content perspective, and also that all of those teachers are also trained in content-based language instruction.
Thank you so much. So Dr. Curran and Ms. Johnson, thank you so much for joining us and participating in this panel today. I know folks have been happy to hear from districts that are working on that implementation and working through some of the pieces of the puzzle that it takes to make it successful. All right, so now let me shift back to the screen share. And there we are. There were a couple of questions in the FAQ asking for the district of our two panelists. So I wanted to bring this slide back up so that y'all had a moment to capture that. Again, Dr. Mindy Curran is the Assistant Superintendent in Ingram ISD, and Liz Johnson is the Coordinator for Middle School Math in Garland ISD.
Okay, now that we've heard from some districts who are already implementing, let's consider what to do in the first year of implementation. If you're not already implementing, you must do so in the 24-25 school year. You should be set to enroll students, be ready to notify parents no later than 2 weeks before school starts, verify everyone has access to strong instructional materials, ensure that your staff has support for implementation to a variety of students. This should not be a one-shot training, but support and reinforcement through the school year. You may have students new to advanced mathematics program, and they will need support all year long, as you've just heard. To that end, we are sure that you're aware of these materials, but our colleagues in special populations wanted to make sure. So we present the following. For special education support, the Texas Special Education Division, or Texas SPED support, offers guidelines, field guides, pointers for working with paraprofessionals, among with professional development opportunities. In addition, our emergent bilingual colleagues offer the texl.org or English Learner Portals Educator. This provides content-based language instruction, or CBLI, Texas effective dual language immersion framework, and then transitional bilingual education and English as second language rubrics and stakeholder checklist. We encourage that you consider adding a method to include students who demonstrate that they've just have figured it out, are able now to do advanced mathematics work. This does happen. Sometimes the light goes on. This would be in addition to those students who are transferring from out of state, out of the country, or even from a private school. One of the common questions we've been having, we've received, is what stars should students take? It really depends on what instruction they've received. For example, if they have received instruction on all of grade 6 and some of grade 7 math TEKS in a school year, then they should take the grade 6 star math assessment. It's not proper to give them the grade 7 math assessment when they haven't seen all the material. You can find this in the Texas Assessment Program Frequently Asked Questions. It's question number 12. If you have additional questions, you can contact our colleagues in the Student Assessment Division. They are the experts in this field. Now, moving on to year 2, you need to double check those certifications, make sure you're covered. Remember, it should have the certification should list the grades that their teacher will be teaching. This is the list for those who are teachers who can teach Algebra 1 in grade 8. They can be found either in 19 Texas Administrative Code, section 231.61, or the teacher's assignment chart. Generalists, you'll notice, aren't on that list anywhere. You'll also want to take a moment to evaluate your middle school math program. How can it be improved? What resources are still needed? You may also want to look at and see how you can accelerate students who've demonstrated their ability to move into that advanced math program in grade 8. That may be directly into Algebra 1. Also, once again, one of the most common questions we receive is what STAR test do they take? Those who enroll in grade 7 receive instruction for some of grade 7, and all of the grade 8 math TEKs say they are in that pattern that Shauna showed you earlier. Then those students should take the STAR grade 8 math assessment. Again, this is noted in the Texas Assessment Program Frequently Asked Questions document. It's question number 12, and our colleagues in the Student Assessment Division are the experts, and you can use them, find them using either that link or the QR code.
And y'all, the big picture on that is really to look at what is the grade level content that they have completed in that year. What have they received instruction in holistically? If they've received instruction in that particular grade level as a whole, they've completed all the standards for that grade level, then that's the grade level they would take STAR in. So moving into year 3, not only are you continuing to refine your middle school advanced mathematics program, you're also preparing to meet the needs of students as they've moved through that program and are now going to be entering high school. On that same topic of assessment, one of the questions we get is if students have taken the Algebra 1 EOC in grade 8 and they've passed it, what are we doing with them in high school? So I wanted to surface for you that a grade 8 student enrolled in Algebra 1 and will take the STAR Algebra 1 assessment in grade 8. When this student is in high school, he or she will need to take either the ACT or the SAT to fulfill federal testing requirements for mathematics. For more information on that, you have a few links here. You've got to the Texas Administrative Code as well as the STAR Test Administrator Manual. The manual is where I pulled this language from. And then again, we have the link to the Student Assessment Help Desk for you to get further information on that testing requirement. In addition to considering testing requirements, it is helpful to remember that the purpose of the law when considering high school implications. The purpose was to increase the number of students who complete advanced mathematics courses in high school. So we recommend that you start considering what opportunities students have in your district to take those advanced mathematics courses in high school. Some examples of courses they might have opportunities to take include dual credit, AP or IB courses, or mathematics courses that are tied to CTE pathways. So on this slide and the next, we highlight some of the CTE courses that have Algebra 1 listed as a recommended prerequisite or as a prerequisite. These courses may have additional prerequisites that must also be met, but passing Algebra 1 clears one of the hurdles for taking some of these courses. On this slide, you see some courses from the manufacturing and the information technology programs of study that list Algebra 1 as a prerequisite or a recommended prerequisite course. You will also find courses that recommend or require Algebra 1 as a prerequisite in the Agriculture, Food, and Natural Sciences program, or excuse me, Natural Resources program of study, as well as in the Business, Marketing, and Finance, and the Science, Technology, Engineering, and Mathematics programs of study. Now, while talking about CTE pathways, we've heard some feedback that providing access to multiple advanced mathematics courses and CTE programs of study may be a challenge. One of the options that you may consider is working in collaboration with other districts to provide more options to students. The Rural Pathway Excellence Partnership, or RPEP program, was recently created and is a model that you may consider as you think about your own programs. The goal of the RPEP program is to increase access to high-quality post-secondary pathways for rural students. So let's talk a little bit about what this looks like in practice. You have to be a district with fewer than 1,600 students to opt in. These particular districts are in South Texas, and they are working in collaboration with a third-party intermediary to offer unique academies that students from any of the participating districts can attend. Each district focuses on one pathway, and students from all 5 districts have the benefit of access to whichever academy meets their needs and interests. There are some specific requirements to participate in an RPEP program. Each district must have fewer than 1,600 students. The pathways must be open to all eligible students. There must be a coordinating entity who can coordinate and operate these pathways. And there must be a performance agreement which outlines roles, responsibilities, and metrics. So our RPEP program is run by the District Innovation and School Models Division. And they gave us this QR code as a way to contact them if you are interested or have questions about that model. So today we've discussed a lot. We've discussed rule, we've discussed the commissioner's rules, we've discussed the law, and also some things to consider in terms of implementation. Throughout the process of building and implementing a middle school advanced mathematics program, it is very important to consider the capacity of your teachers, counselors, administrators, parents, and students to engage, learn, adapt, and grow. Capacity building is important because it encourages the people involved to be part of developing solutions that fit your unique community. Building capacity in your staff ensures that you have the right people in the right place to be able to implement new programs successfully. In thinking about teacher capacity, you might consider how you intentionally develop and support a growth mindset. You might also consider how well your internal communication processes allow feedback and adaptation. When thinking about increasing student capacity, you might consider, how do you build grit and growth mindset in students? Also consider how well district and campus systems and resources support self-efficacy and curiosity. One area in which you can anchor these questions is through instructional materials. As you progress through the school year, consider how well your instructional materials support both teacher and student capacity. Do they need to be augmented? If so, what's missing? Is the pacing appropriate for the needs of your students? Additionally, are there resources which help teachers feel more effective and encourage students to continue challenging themselves? Are there additional supports that you need for all students? Are there supports needed to support specific populations of students? Reflection and adjustment are absolutely necessary as a part of the process as you build a new program and learn more about how your community engages in the work with you. We do look forward to supporting you as we move forward, and will continue to develop resources and opportunities designed to meet the needs of districts and charters throughout Texas. So next steps. We're going to update the Middle School Advanced Mathematics Program webpage. We plan to have the webinar slides available to you tomorrow. We are going to get the webinar recording posted for you as well on YouTube and linked to the webpage. We'll update with other relevant resources, including some of the links that you've seen here today so that you have access to those easily. And then we will also post the FAQ by early April. A couple of other deadlines that I wanted to make you aware of. Rules should be filed as adopted by early June. And one of the other questions we've gotten is about when STAR scores will be available. District testing coordinators and superintendents should be able to receive those on Thursday, May 30th, and they'll be available to the rest of the district on Tuesday, June 4th. And this is noted on the Texas Assessment Calendar of Events. We do have a feedback survey that we share at the end of our curriculum presentations. We use the data collected from this survey to reflect and adapt our presentations to better meet the needs of the education community. We would greatly appreciate it if you take time to let us know how we did today. I'm going to leave that up for a moment, and then I've got one more link, a couple more links to share with you here. Wanted to provide the link tree one more time, as well as the direct link to the middle school advanced mathematics program web page.
So while you get these links open on your phones or your computers, I just wanted to reiterate, got a lot of questions in the chat about resources and more information on some of these questions. We will be posting those resources to the new middle school advanced math program webpage. And as Shauna mentioned, we're gonna work on a schedule for office hours, and we will invite folks from around the agency and maybe even from districts to come in, but we really want to use as an opportunity for more one-on-one question asking and answering, and even perhaps for you all to dialogue amongst yourselves about what you're doing. I saw some really good questions that you're asking each other out there. So we'll be putting out that schedule in the very near future.
And additionally, along with the office hours, if you have questions that you just want to send us real quick, you can do so through the curriculum help desk as well. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us today. Shelley, did you want us to take any questions or? You're muted, Shelley.
Thanks. I think we have time for a couple of quick questions. James, I know you've gone over this a few times in the Q&A, and then you had a slide on it. But I did want to make sure we've got some questions in the chat, especially I think there's some confusion about which STAR exam students would take. So can you speak to that one more time?
Absolutely. It really depends on what material the students have seen in the school year. If they've seen all of grade 6, but only part of grade 7, then they should take the grade 6 STAR assessment. If, however, they see the last half of grade 7 and then all of grade 8, then they should take the 8th grade STAR assessment. Again, that reference, it's question number 12 in the Texas Assessment Program's frequently asked question document. You're welcome to read it for yourself or ask us questions, or even better, ask our colleagues in the student assessment divisions, as they are, in fact, the real experts in this field.
There is a question in the chat about how will we be notified about the office hours. We will absolutely post those through our mathematics newsletter. We will post it to the Advanced Mathematics web page. Shelley, are there any other avenues through which we'll communicate that?
Yes, we also have your email addresses that you used to register for today's webinar. So we'll send out kind of a mass email and blind copy everybody so that you can get that scheduled. James, another common question that was included in the Q&A, there were several questions asking about 60th percentile on STAR versus top 40% on STAR. Could you reiterate that, please?
Yes, ma'am. We're talking about the students themselves. We're not talking about scores. 60th percentile means there's 60% below a given mark. So that would mean there's 40% above that given mark. So the top 40th percentile is in fact the 60th percentile, because we're always speaking above that 60% mark as you look upward. So one question actually asked if it's more than half. No, in fact, it is less than half.
And another commonly asked question, James, I believe you addressed this, but James or Shauna, feel free to jump in. Folks are asking about whether a teacher with an EC6 certification would be eligible to teach grade 7 mathematics.
They should have the grade level of the material that they're teaching. If they're teaching grade 7, then EC through grade 6 isn't grade 7. And they will need that grade 7. But by the same token, if you're like me and you're 8 through 12, you shouldn't be teaching grade 6 or grade 7.
And I've seen a few questions that are centered around thinking about using grade 5 star and also using the local measure to include students. I think the biggest thing to consider here, folks, is that the main goal, the purpose as we understand it, is to include as many students as possible who show potential for success in Algebra 1 in grade 8. So you look at star, and then when you're thinking about that local measure, whether it is class rank or it is demonstrated proficiency, you are looking to identify those students who maybe either they just didn't perform as well on star as they have the potential to perform, or the kiddo who was sick on the day that star happened, or the kiddo that moved in. If you have a way to measure their demonstrated proficiency, it's really how do we capture the kiddos who are not represented, right? We want to make sure that all of the folks that have the potential to do well in this program get the opportunity to try.
We also had a lot of questions focused on exiting students from an advanced math program. So I think that sounds like a good topic that we can take up either in the FAQ document or in some office hours. So just stay tuned and we'll put out some information related to that. And there was, you may have seen if you were looking through the Q&A, there was a couple of different conversations going on about whether the local measure and star scores are required. So this is where the commissioner's rules on middle school advanced math programs would provide some additional clarification. If you haven't seen those proposed rules, they do require every district to have a local measure. And that's, Shauna mentioned that we're going to work on clarifying that language a little bit before they are filed as adopted, and start results. So the idea being that we want as many students to qualify for the middle school advanced math program as possible. It is not one or the other. Districts should consider both. And if a student meets one or the other, then they would qualify for automatic enrollment.
Oh, nice. There was somebody in the chat that says, for your information, we have an alliance of 6 school districts in East Texas that offer CTE opportunities for all as well. We do it all without third-party providers so that each district maintains funding. We are in year 5 of implementation. So there's other programs out there where districts are collaborating to provide those CTE opportunities. That's fantastic. Thank you. And then I see questions about getting resources from the districts that presented. Let me talk to our panelists about how they'd like to best share that information, and we will absolutely follow up with you on that as well. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, thank you again so much for joining us today. We look forward to doing all the problem solving and solution seeking with you as we all embark on this journey. Thank you again for joining us, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, everyone.